everybody. Hey, welcome back to the Shared Living Podcast. I am your host, Dan Esdale, the CMO at Encompass Human Services. And today I am thrilled to be joined by Kwasi Asamani. Kwasi, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I am Kwasi Asamani. I have been working with Incompass Human Services for the past 20 years, formerly Lifelinks Incorporated. I used to work in a residential setting, that is a self-directed home at 87 Bedford Avenue, and I was elevated to shared living coordinator almost 2 years ago. And I enjoy what I do because my heart is in it.
And that is the theme, I think, that at Encompass. And also the other theme you might have picked up on, Susan had mentioned in their last podcast that she had 30 years of experience, and Kwasi here has 20 years of experience. So you're not going to find bigger experts than the two of them, which is why I'm thrilled that they're here helping us kind of demystify the shared living program. I think it's a program that is a new concept to a lot of people, even though it's a program that's been around for a while. And in the past couple of podcasts, what we've done is we've kind of introduced everybody to the program, what it does, who it serves, and Susan in our last episode really focused on the providers, right? People who are interested in opening their homes up to a participant in the program, a person with a disability who qualifies for the program. What we thought we'd do today, because another question I think has come up a lot, is really talk about the residents, right? So a lot of people might be interested in the program, but might be sort of wondering, am I eligible to participate based on my residence? So I thought Kwasi maybe could clarify a few of the questions that I know you get when you talk to folks who are interested in the program. And I thought we'd just start, right away. Like, let's just talk about the home itself, your home, your residence. I know one question people ask you: do you need to own a single family home to be eligible to be a shared living provider?
No, you do not. Besides having a zeal and a commitment to join us in the shared living program, you don't have to be a homeowner. You can be it can be a rental apartment, and so far as it meets the housing code and it meets Encompass what we look out for certain criteria, and if you meet these criteria, you do not have to be a homeowner to be a shared living provider.
So that's one sort of qualification. You don't have to own. You can rent, you can lease. You don't have to be a homeowner to participate. What about the actual domicile itself? Is there limits on? Is it have to be a single family home? Can it be an apartment, a multi-family housing unit? Are there any restrictions there?
No, we're looking at these, and it just have to be a welcoming environment where it meets all the criteria we're looking for, comfortable, and it doesn't have to be a Victorian building. It doesn't have to, so far as the house is cozy enough and it meet the standard, you're good to go.
So basically what you're saying is don't disqualify yourself before talking to you and your team. You mentioned sort of, whether you have an apartment, whether you have a house. I assume one of the criteria that you do need, though, is having an available bedroom. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. So, and then you mentioned some of the criteria. Like, what do you when you guys do the process for vetting a provider? I know is a site visit, a visit to the home, right? So, what do you and your team? What does that process look like? What do you look for when you go out to a house?
The provider has to agree to comply with all safety requirements and regulations. And when I say safety requirements and regulations, I mean you have to allow the shared living coordinator or a representative from Encompass to come do an on-site safety reviews and inspections. And after that, we take it from there.
Okay. And when you say safety review, what do you look for there? Are you talking like like functioning smoke detectors, things like
Functioning
that?
smoke detectors, a sizable whole room big enough to accommodate the individual, and the individual has to have a room to him or herself.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. And do I have to add if I'm, let's just say I'm leasing an apartment, renting an apartment? Is there a requirement? Do you work with people in terms of do you have to add the provider or the participant, excuse me, to your lease? Is that something that you guys have experience with?
No, you do not. It's just like you living with your children, and you taking responsibility. You go lease a whole house or an apartment. You are the signatory, and your children do not have to sign. Likewise, welcoming an individual into your home, he or she does not have to sign a lease or be on a lease.
Got it. Oh, that's great. So it sounds like the barrier is I don't want to say low, but achievable. So if you are interested in participating in the program and getting paid to be a shared living provider, when you look at just your residents, the criteria is pretty straightforward. It sounds like just whether you own or rent, you need to just have an available bedroom. You need to have basic safety measures in place, like you mentioned, like the smoke detectors and the egress things that I think all of us would want to have in place, regardless of whether we're participating in the program.
Yeah, just
And
to
you need
chip
to.
in,
Yep. Go ahead.
since you mentioned egress, you have to have like two egresses, one in the front and one at the back in case of an emergency. And certain areas we also look for, you have to provide documentation of annual heating system inspection, of which this area I must emphasize. It's the responsibility of the provider to pay for the heating inspection and also participate in the development of a safety plan. When I talk about a safety plan entails the floor plan of the whole apartment or the house, and also a search plan. And this goes to DDS after everything, and we are certified for a duration of 2 years. Every 2 years, the safety plan is renewed, and the provider has to have this on site.
And that's good to know. And you mentioned DDS, the Department of Developmental Services within the Commonwealth. And for those of you who are listening and don't know, DDS is a division of the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. So everything that you just mentioned, Kwasi, those aren't Encompass safety standards. Those are state regulations that apply to anyone participating in this program, whether you're at Encompass or another agency. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that's a really good segue to my final question. So Encompass, for those who don't know, Encompass Human Services, we are a full-service human service agency that provides a range of services and supports to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and acquired brain injuries. And the shared living program is part of our residential portfolio. Kwasi mentioned some of the group homes that he's worked in the past that we operate as well. We have 19 group homes, soon to be 22. And the shared living program is a way to really help people find the ideal living situation that allows them to live their best lives. And it might be in a group home, it might be in a shared living environment. Kwasi's team, they help kind of establish that. So if you are interested in participating in the program, I think one of the questions that I know your team gets, I live in Lawrence, I live in Lowell, no problem. You are absolutely eligible to participate in the Encompass Shared Living Program. But if you happen to be listening to this podcast and you're a Massachusetts resident who doesn't reside in the Greater Lowell or Greater Lawrence area, can you still participate in the Shared Living Program, Kwasi?
Yes, sir. With Encompass, the sky is the limit. And we're broadening our horizon as the day goes by. Case in point, we serve all the way up to Gardner for now, and we've been receiving applications as far as Worcester, and as we speak, we serve a couple individuals in Gardner. So we keep expanding every day, and it's not just the catchment area of Lowell and Lawrence area, but pretty soon we're going to be nationwide.
I love the enthusiasm, and it's funny because one of the things that we are doing right now at Encompass, we're actually a founding affiliate of something called the New England Human Services Collaborative. So we actually have sort of partner agencies around the state as well. So if it's a town that maybe we Encompass doesn't serve right now, with Kwasi's help, we can connect you with a local provider who can get you set up in the program, as it's a program that's funded by the state. And our goal is really just to empower people to live their best lives. And if it's us or if it's another one of our partner agencies, we all have the same shared mission. So I hope this helped to kind of demystify. I think if I had to summarize this, Kwasi, what I would say is, if you're interested in the program and you have questions about is my residence eligible, just reach out. I think you guys have been made yourselves very approachable and available to answer those questions, so people don't feel the need to maybe disqualify themselves. So you guys are more than happy to have a conversation. Is that a good way to kind of summarize here?
Yes, sir. Our doors are always open. It doesn't matter what time, and we always
be careful what you wish for. Let's
We always answer the phone or prompt response to emails that we receive from near and far.
Yep, and I know you and Susan and Oscar, all three of you, I know, love talking about this program as well. So, if it's a good fit, they'll find a way to make it work. If it's not a good fit, they won't be offended.
Yes,
and it's a good way to kind of help spread the word, because the reality is there is a need for beds for people with disabilities, and the shared living program is an excellent way to help get people the beds that they need and that they deserve. So if you're willing and able to do it, I encourage you to reach out to Kwasi. His contact info is going to be in the description on the podcast. Kwasi, any final words before we wrap here?
The sky is the limit when it comes to Encompass Human Services, and thanks for having me.
No, thank you for taking the time, and I think thank everybody for listening. And to Kwasi's point, the sky is the limit for Encompass, but you all have the power to help someone with a disability if it's something that you're interested in. There's an intrinsic benefit, of course, but there's also an extrinsic benefit. There is compensation if you're willing to open your home up to somebody with a disability. So on that note, I want to thank Kwasi. And we're all going to wrap this one up. You can listen to the Shared Living, Sharing a House, Making a Home podcast episodes on Spotify or at encompasshs.org. As always, I'm your host, Dan Esdale, with Kwasi Asamani. Thank you for listening.